This chapter will help you understand that people with dementia have the right to take risks within the context of their own lives. It will also help you to understand how people with dementia may be harmed. Finally, this chapter will increase your awareness of legislation and local policy and any actions you may need to take. We tend to assume that people with dementia aren't able to think, process information and make sound decisions. This makes it more likely that we are overcautious in how we work with them, and a safety-first approach is the biggest barrier to enabling people with dementia to have control over their own lives. Rather than this negative approach, a positive one of risk enablement is now used. This is based on the idea that measuring risk involves balancing the benefits from taking risks against the potential negative effects of attempting to avoid risk altogether. For example, the risk of getting lost if a person with dementia goes out unaccompanied needs to be set against the possible risk and consequences of boredom and frustration from remaining inside. It recognises the strengths the person has and builds on their abilities. It also encourages us to find creative ways to enable people to take risks. Central to this approach is the person with dementia deciding the level of risk they want to take. While promoting risk enablement, we still need to remember that people with dementia may be at risk of harm, in the same way as others in our society. This may be from people close to them or working with them, and usually includes physical abuse, being hit or injured on purpose, financial or material abuse, such as theft or misuse of money, property or personal possessions, emotional abuse, for example, intimidation, threats, humiliation, verbal or psychological abuse, sexual abuse, the involvement in sexual activity that is unwanted or not understood, neglect, from not providing the basics such as food, clothing, attention or care, to the failure to provide appropriate access to health and social care. Discrimination, treating people negatively because they are older, frail or confused. The misuse of medication, giving medication inappropriately, overdosing or withholding medication. Signs and symptoms of abuse may include injuries, bruises or weight loss, behaviour changes such as being withdrawn or depressed, self-harm or a dishevelled or unkempt appearance. We can help to protect people with dementia and enable them to express their wishes. We can support and advise them on how to grant particular individuals the power to make decisions on their behalf when they are no longer able to do so. How is this possible? The Scottish Government has put in place a range of legal measures which enable us to take action to protect the person with dementia. We will not go into the detail of these pieces of legislation, but it's important that you know they exist and that you report any concerns you may have to your manager. You need to act when you suspect someone is being abused or neglected, even if you are not certain. The following legislation applies: the Adults with Incapacity Scotland Act 2000, the Mental Health, Care and Treatment Scotland Act 2003, the Human Rights Act 1998 and the Adult Support and Protection Scotland Act 2007. We'll now hear from people with dementia about how important taking risks is to them.
And I can remember my doctor saying to me, oh, you shouldn't go out the house and you shouldn't do that, etc. And I said, look, that is stupid. Because if something happens to me and I'm in the house, what's the point? I'm better out the house, you know.
So, I mean, do you think it's a mistake for doctors, professionals and even family to say, oh dear, now you've got that, you shouldn't be doing
that? Oh
yeah.
I think it's destructive. I mean, people should be allowed to take a certain amount of risk. You've got to be allowed to stumble and fall occasionally. You've got to be encouraged to take yourself out the comfort zone where there's no fear, there's no nothing, but there's also no life.
Next, we'll meet Margaret. Margaret is 90 and was recently admitted into a community hospital. This situation could easily occur in a care home, a hospital ward, or in a person's own home.
Sit down, Margaret. Oh dear, just stay where you are.
I need to sort.
We don't want you hurting yourself again now, do we, Margaret? Come on now, Margaret, we can't have you walking about. You've already taken a tumble. We don't want you to get any more injuries, Margaret.
I'm fine.
Take time to consider the following. Why do you think the staff member is acting this way? What are the risks or benefits to Margaret? Was it appropriate for the staff member to stop Margaret from getting out of her seat? So, what are the key learning points? Staff have a duty to ensure that people they're working with are safe. In protecting people with dementia from harm, it sometimes feels as though the only option is to prevent them from taking any risks. Preventing people with dementia from doing things they want to because they're considered too risky can result in the person feeling frustrated or distressed. Restricting a person's movements could also be viewed as restraint. In our second visit to Margaret, we can see that small changes in our approach and a more positive response to Margaret's abilities can make a big difference. These changes develop Margaret's sense of confidence and independence and the ethos of the environment she lives in.
Margaret, remember to take your stick.
Yes. That's it now.
Thank you, Margaret. You're so good at spotting what needs done.
So, what are the key learning points? Risk enablement. It's important to balance the risks to a person with dementia against their current capabilities and their rights to engage in activities they enjoy. It's sometimes the case that staff and others involved with the person with dementia can be so protective that they can't see ways to balance rights and risks. There's often a way around these apparently impossible situations, and this can contribute a great deal to the quality of life for someone with dementia. We're almost at the end of this DVD. We hope that you've had the opportunity to think more about the impact dementia is having and will increasingly have on all our lives, regardless of where we work or where we live. We've given you information to help you recognise if someone is living with dementia. We want to encourage you to think about how you can support people in having a better quality of life through how you communicate and by recognising and reducing the problems people with dementia can face. We owe particular thanks to members of the Scottish Dementia Working Group who've shared their thoughts and experience with us, helping us to understand dementia better. So, what now? Please think about what you've learned and use it to be a more confident and more effective member of staff. To take the next step towards developing your knowledge, you should access the Dementia Skilled Improving Practice learning resource. Above all, remember that people with dementia need you to understand the challenges they face and to support them in leading valued lives.